I will be 83 on December 1st. Women only had two choices in my day. You could become a nurse or a school teacher. That was it.
Why
You
is
couldn't
that?
be an engineer, who knows? I became pregnant and wasn't allowed to teach anymore. $4,200 was my yearly salary. Let me tell you, there's a lack of respect, and I think that's the main problem. Parents are failing nowadays to really tell their kids about respect. I would never recommend teaching.
In the time that you were teaching in America in general, was the political landscape as polarizing as it is now?
No way. My first president I voted for was JFK. All politicians, or most politicians, are crooks.
What is going on, guys? I have a very exciting video for you today as I am heading up to Phoenix, Arizona, specifically on the north side. And this one's going to be exciting. So I'm going to meet up with my former piano teacher. Her name is Linda, and she is an incredible woman. She is incredibly sharp, incredibly active, I will also add, as I believe, which I'm going to have to confirm with her in person when I see her, but I believe she mentioned to me that she gets up every morning and runs about 5 miles. Something to that extent. She is an incredible human being, and it has been probably about 7 years since I've seen her in person, and today I'm going to interview her and ask her her view on the country as of now and what it was then. This is going to be a very interesting interview today, and I'm very excited to bring it to you, and I think you guys are going to enjoy it a lot, so let's do it. What is going on, everybody? I am here with my former piano teacher, Linda. This is, I guess, rude to ask a woman, but this is also the purpose somewhat of the video. Could you state your age?
Sure. I will be 83 on December 1st.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. So you've seen a lot of life,
Absolutely.
which has kind of intrigued me, obviously, to come and interview you today. Where were you originally born?
Okay, I was born in Cleveland, Ohio, in Mount Sinai Hospital, which I understand now is gone. So I went to Ohio State and in Columbus, so I really wasn't living in my house other than in summers, but then I actually went 2 summers in to Ohio State so that I could graduate early, and the reason for that was that I had met my husband, and it was fate. Thanksgiving break, and I had called my brother's buddy, who I knew had a car there, and I said, do you have room for me and my roommate? And he said, yeah, Diane will be sitting in the front seat, and Diane's cousin is coming too. So I got into the car, and then they drove toward my husband's dorm. And as he walked toward the car, I said, gee, Diane, I didn't know you had such a good-looking cousin. And we sat next to each other in the car all the way back to Cleveland. Anyhow, he asked me out for the weekend. We went out that weekend, and then he said, well, when I get back down to school, we'll go out. Every evening we met. You weren't allowed to have boys pass the front door.
Really?
Of the dorm.
What? Things have changed.
Oh, tell me about it.
We'll get into that.
Yeah, no kidding. And we continued dating. Now, mind you, we met in Thanksgiving weekend, 1961.
Okay.
By February 1962, we got engaged.
Wow.
And we got married September 1st, 1962.
Wow.
9 months after we met.
Wow.
And we've now been married 61 years.
I think that might be the longest I've heard anybody have a marriage ever in my life.
I am so lucky because I found somebody. He is a talented artist.
Sure.
He could fix anything. He fixes cars. He fixes things in the house that break down.
Sure.
He is so talented, and I'm just so lucky, and we've been in love all these years.
Yeah, so I guess that's the question, right? Like now, statistically speaking, divorce in this country is astronomically high. I think like every one of my friends' parents are probably not together for the most part, and even my own parents. I mean, what did you do? What do you think was different then, or is it a personal basis, or you think everything was different then?
I just think if you fall in love and that you get along so well, you don't live together first.
Yeah, that's probably
I really think, it's very different. That doesn't mean that you don't hang out together or whatever.
So it used to be like you would get married and then live together kind of thing?
Yes, exactly.
So you had never lived together before until all of a sudden you're in a legally binding thing. But at that point, what makes it, I guess, so that it's successful?
Because we love each other. We tell each other that all the time. Things were so different back then. And I'm trying to think that most of my girlfriends got married, and I don't think anybody got divorced.
That was probably taboo, right, at the time?
It wasn't really taboo. It just, when you got married, it was for life. In those days, I started teaching in 1962 in Columbus, Ohio, because my husband still had a couple years to go. He had been in the Navy. So then, after we moved back to Cleveland, I started teaching there, and I taught for 2 more years in Cleveland. Then I had all my kids. Within 2.5 years, I had 4 kids, because my youngest are twins.
Sure.
And that worked out beautifully, because you could not teach and have kids.
That was like against the rules.
It was against the rules, and you could not be pregnant and teach.
That seems like a very moral law.
It was, because look at what goes on nowadays.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no respect.
Yeah, I was going to say, it actually seems disrespectful to ask someone to teach while they're pregnant or you basically work, right? But now we're kind of in a state of affairs with the country where you can't really
do anything.
not work, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So at that time was, so you're coming out of the 50s into the 60s, which is a very pivotal time
it was.
in America. Was... in terms of both married couples in the household working, was that common back then, or was that just starting to become
that? Because a lot of women only had 2 choices in my day. You could become a nurse or a school teacher.
Really?
That was it.
Why
you
is
couldn't
that?
be an engineer. Who knows? It was a man's world, and that was it. My husband was an engineer.
So if you wanted to go to college, they just wouldn't accept you for that?
That was it. You could either be a nurse, go into nursing, or teaching. And from the start, from when I was a little girl, I always wanted to teach. Taught for 2 years in Cleveland, and then I became pregnant and wasn't allowed to teach anymore.
Wow.
So I stayed home with my kids for 10 years. In the meantime, over that period of time, we had moved to the Chicago area in 1972, and I taught at 3 different schools, interestingly.
Sure.
So I basically taught 1st through 6th grade over the years, never taught kindergarten.
Yeah, so I guess to kind of touch on something that we were talking about off camera, obviously now, I guess I have 2 questions there, because, for one, has teaching always basically paid nothing, and then...
My first year of teaching, I can tell you, I was the only one working. $4,200 was my yearly salary.
Whoa. Wow.
And I was just asking my husband this morning, how much did we pay for our first apartment? $92.50 a month.
Wow.
But
I'm sure
that was all on me. I mean, just at my meager salary.
There's obviously a lot of controversy in media now, with teaching, right? A lot of interesting
things going on? I mean, how is that?
Let me tell you, there's a lack of respect, and I think that's the main problem.
Yeah, when did you see that? Did you see that change in your time of teaching?
All right, I've been retired now for 21 years.
Okay.
It started to come in a little bit, but nothing like it is nowadays, and I would never recommend teaching.
What do you think changed that with the respect thing? I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of factors, but...
Well, I can give you one instance. It was winter, and I noticed one of my students, a girl, came in with her belly hanging out, and I took her out the door, and I said, "Your mother let you come to school wearing that?" And she said, "Yeah." I got a call from that mother that night, because I always believed in good conversations with parents, too. And I said, "Yeah, why?" She said, "Well, I don't see anything wrong with her wearing that." And I said, "So she told you that was okay to wear in the winter?" I said, "Hey, if you don't want me to tell her anything, it's not like I blabbed that in front of the class, because I would never do that."
So you were very much involved in these students' lives on a personal level.
Yeah.
Okay.
And at the beginning of the school year, I gave them all my rules.
What
This
were those?
is what you have to do. If you do something that is not acceptable, I'll discuss it with you. Never in front of the class. I'll take you out into the hall and we'll talk about it. Or I'll have you in for a mini conference.
Sure.
And that worked out well.
Okay.
Because they knew after that, I told them, I will dial your parents' number. We had a phone on the wall right by the door. So I was able to take it this is before cell phones.
Right.
I was able to take the phone into the hall, and then the kid had to tell the parents what they did.
I think that would be enough for me to not do enough damage.
And my husband and I were talking about this last night. It's so interesting that we lucked out. All 4 of our kids turned out to be really good citizens, good workers, etc.
What do you feel like was the best time that you lived in America?
I'd have to say just my whole life growing up.
Okay.
I mean, seriously, my mom was real strict.
When would have that been? Like the 50s?
I grew up in the 50s, yeah. I was born in 1940.
Okay.
So, yeah, I grew up in the 50s, graduated from high school January 59.
Wow.
Yeah.
What was different about that time?
I think teachers were stricter then. In fact, when I used to sneeze, my English teacher in junior high said, "Linda, do you have to sneeze so dramatically?"
Really? That was a problem?
Oh my gosh, yeah. But I was very respectful. You had respect. You didn't talk out. I never did. I never got in trouble. In fact, when I was in high school, we could not wear pants. Girls had to wear dresses or skirts.
That's right, okay.
Yeah, and we had to wear full slips. Yeah, I really think, and I've said that many times, once the clothing, the attire that you could wear at school went down the tubes, and teachers started dressing down also, that's where respect went out the window. It's just so interesting. I think because a lot of the religion has gone away.
Yeah, and in the school system too, right? I mean...
Well, you know what, we never prayed in my school. I never had that, and I just read something the other day on Facebook. Too bad that you can't pray in school anymore. I know the problem we had at that time was saying the pledge.
I was going to ask, yeah.
I had Jehovah's Witnesses in my classes, and they were not allowed to stand for the pledge, and so what?
Sure.
I let them sit. I never said anything about it. That was their religion.
Sure.
And I went along with that.
Sure.
Nowadays, if you do that, ye gads. I mean, look at the football games or whatever, to kneel in front of the flag, I think that's rude.
Yeah, you find
and
that
I never ran
disrespectful.
into that because the highest grade I taught was 6th grade. So I never had a problem with that. So the kids would stand up every morning and we'd say the pledge and we would sing Star Spangled Banner.
Was the political, obviously like what you just mentioned with kneeling and stuff, was the political landscape at the time, well, I guess in the time that you were teaching in America in general, was the political landscape as polarizing as it is now?
No way. As to the political part, and this is a good example, my grandparents came to this country on my father's side from Poland, from Russia. my mother's side from Poland, okay? When they came to this country, my grandparents, they all became Democrats.
Okay.
Because that was a wonderful party back then.
Sure.
No problems. I mean, they were really, really good. And until I was in 6th grade, I just thought, oh yeah, Democrat Party, my parents are Democrats. One of the boys in my class, and it was when I was in 6th grade, brought in an I Like Ike button for everybody in the class, and he was a Republican. That was the first Republican that my parents voted for. I still feel that I remember the Democrat Party, and it was so different from what it is nowadays.
Sure.
My husband and I are not Democrats, and I see such a difference over the years of how that changed. And that wasn't until I was married, really, that it had to start with that I Like Ike button, because that changed my parents' attitude. I have to say that all politicians, or most politicians, are crooks.
Yeah, it's kind of a weird dichotomy I notice with, just the political movements, right? Everything's a movement now. You're a part of this group, right? And someone says something you like, and I mean, from a personal standpoint, being my generation, I do feel like it's easy for people to get lumped into a group because someone said something they like, right?
That's right.
I don't know if that was ever different. Maybe, I don't know if people were to think for themselves more in a different time than
I don't think people think anymore.
Yeah.
They just...
I don't think critical thinking is taught in school.
No, it isn't. And I certainly taught that.
Yeah.
But the woke stuff nowadays, if I were teaching, I would go nuts.
Yeah.
Because I never had a kid who'd say, I want to be a kitty cat, meow.
Right, yeah. What would you do, I guess, if you were a teacher?
If I were teaching and somebody did that, I'd take the kid out in the hall and say, look, you could discuss this with your parents, but this is not something we discuss in the classroom. To me, that's something that should be discussed in the home, not in school.
So you feel like that's, again, the parents at that point?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Parents are failing nowadays to really tell their kids about respect. We were told, okay, you had to be in for dinner. You couldn't be playing outside when it got dark.
Sure.
I mean, we had all these rules, and boy, if we didn't follow them, I'm playing the piano. If my fingers weren't curved, my mother would come in and smack them.
Well, going back to the just polarization of the split of the country, people's mentality, do you think there's a way to fix that?
I don't know. I mean, they really have to shape up, and it has to be in oneself.
Sure.
I don't think that anybody can tell anybody what they should do.
So you think a lack of tradition has caused some problems?
Oh my gosh, definitely. That's why there's no work ethic anymore.
Who was your, if you have one, your favorite president in your lifetime?
Funny thing, my first president I voted for was JFK.
Really? That's such an interesting one. So that's come full circle now. What do you think about his nephew running?
Who, Robert?
Yeah.
I don't know. I really haven't made up my mind with that. I kind of like him because he's like an independent. And he's more like JFK. JFK was a wonderful Democrat.
Yeah, what do you like about what he did in his time?
Just the fact that he brought people together, I thought was really good. And unfortunately, in a sad way.
Why is that?
When he was killed, I was teaching 2nd grade. And it was my 2nd year in Columbus, Ohio, teaching. And we got a message over the loudspeaker saying that we should go into the other 2nd grade classroom because she had a TV, and that you need to go in right now with your class and watch. Boy, was I shocked when I found out what we were looking at. We were looking at him being shot.
Wow.
And then they canceled school the rest of that week, and that was awful.
Wow.
And especially because I voted for him, and I thought he was doing such a wonderful job with this country.
Yeah.
But I really think that's where things changed after JFK.
As a country.
As a country.
In what way?
He was so good in what he did, what he said. And I have to bring this up too.
Sure.
I feel strongly that Trump did a lot for this country.
Yeah.
And so many people poo-poo that.
Wait, so you flipped parties at one point?
Oh, I did, yeah.
So when was that? When did you flip?
Okay, I'm trying to think. Who was the first Republican I voted for? I honestly don't even remember. And it may have been Nixon. I mean, I have friends who are whatever.
Yeah.
I don't care. And that should never be a topic of discussion because there are too many fights over that. So if
Do
we
you
get
feel like
together,
it was always that way?
no.
You used to be able to talk about it, right?
Yeah,
That's what
we
a lot of
did.
people have told
Oh,
me.
yeah.
It used to be like, hey, we're all on the same side
That's
at the end of the day, right?
But now, because you don't want to bring up anything political, you
Yeah.
don't say anything.
Well, I mean, basically, like right now, everything you're saying, right? Regardless if the people watching this agree or disagree, I think there's a lot of people actually afraid to even just say what is on their mind, just
That's
like
right.
you just did, you know?
Yeah.
Just the boldness of the statements.
Yeah, well, I've become very bold.
Yeah.
In
Well,
my old age. No, seriously, because I used to just be a real quiet kid.
yeah, you just don't
But
care
I
what people
came
think.
out, no.
Okay.
It's not that I don't care what they think. If somebody asks me something that I feel strongly about and I disagree, I would say something.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't yell at them, and I just say, well, I'm sorry, I don't agree.
Yeah.
That's all. I don't need to start a fight.
Going back to, because I feel like now I have to preface this anyways, is like, even if you disagree or agree, right, with whatever we're talking about right now, even in this conversation, do you feel like the lack of dialogue of these conversations has caused the divide?
Yeah, I do. I think people need to talk more.
Even if they disagree?
Even if they disagree, you can agree to disagree.
Yeah, and that's fair.
Yeah, that is. Absolutely. I don't agree with what you're saying, but hey, that's your prerogative. We have free speech. When I was in school, we never had any of those problems, but we knew, like, there was a boy down the street from me, Michael, and he would walk me home every day from elementary school, and I knew he was gay, but in those days, we didn't even use that term.
Oh, yeah.
He was queer.
That's what
when
it was
I got
called?
into high school, they were queer. We never said the word gay. That came well after.
Interesting. I didn't know
Yeah.
that.
My roommate and I from college, it had to be 1960. We took a Greyhound bus down to Florida
Okay.
during Christmas break, and we were shocked when we got off the bus. Had to be like in Georgia, and we saw white fountain, colored fountain, white bathroom, colored bathroom. We
Wow.
looked at each other. Oh my gosh. Got back on the bus and went on our way, got off the bus at the bus station in Florida, in Miami. And again, the same thing. And
Even that far south?
that far south. And we questioned that. Oh my God, this is something. And we went to take a cab to our hotel. And we saw a black driver. We didn't think anything of it. We said, will you take us to our hotel? He said, are you sure? And we thought, how come he's asking us that? And we said, yeah, that's fine. We got stopped by the police in the middle of going there, and they asked us to get out of the cab. And we said, why are you doing this? Well, do you know that's a black driver? We said, so? We're from Ohio.
Wow.
We don't know about this.
Wow.
And he let us go on our way. We got to the hotel. They would not allow our driver to carry in our luggage.
Wow.
They sent someone out from the hotel to carry in our luggage.
How did that make you feel back
Horrible.
then? Yeah, I can
Horrible.
imagine.
It was just horrible.
It was probably humiliated
It was.
for both
Yeah.
parties,
oh, yeah.
right?
Yeah. We thanked the driver. We gave him a tip.
Wow.
We really appreciated him. Of course, in my area where I lived, there weren't any black people. But once I got to high school, yeah, there were a few. So what?
Yeah.
We never thought anything about it. If we saw gay people, we never said anything about it. We were friends with everybody.
I guess with that all being said, are you proud to be an American?
I am proud to be an American, and I just wish everybody in this country would be proud.
Well, with all this being said, do you have any last words / advice for the youth?
I would hope, dear God, that kids learn respect. And if a teacher doesn't teach it, it is up to the parents. But if if a teacher sees that a kid is disrespectful, I would wonder what the parents are like. So at conferences, I would ask, okay, what do you discuss about respect in the house?
Yeah.
And I'd want to know what they feel about that. Sure. Nowadays, I don't think parents spend enough time with their kids to even discuss what they do at school. And it could be because both parents have to work nowadays. That's the excuse given.
Right.
But you have to find time to talk with your kids.
Sure.
And if they talk back to you, that is disrespectful.
What do you foresee for the future for my generation?
I think it's up to each individual to make a decision, and hopefully it's a good decision, that you want to be a good person. You want to have a good work ethic. You want to be a good citizen. Follow your dreams. If they make sense, if it shows that you're a good person, absolutely.
Yeah, to wrap it up, thank you so much.
Oh, yeah, I enjoyed having you. Such a pleasure seeing you all grown up.
I know,
I love it. And you do what you want to do.
Well, thank you.
I love it. And you're full of respect, which is great. Your parents obviously did a good job with you.
Thank you guys for watching today's video. And my thanks to Linda, of course, for giving her time today to do the interview. If you enjoyed today's video, please like and share it. That's really much appreciated and helps me out a lot. And of course, please subscribe if you enjoy my content. I have a link in the description below on how you can help support me in that if you are feeling so generous, of course. And of course, I really appreciate that as well. I really enjoyed this one today. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. And I will see you guys on the next one. So have a great rest of your day.